Okay, it's 10:02. I think it's time to get going. I have pressed record, which is the most important thing. Welcome to the Smart Scheduling and Business Insights webinar for the European customers. Here's a quick agenda of what we're going to run through today. The first one I've already done. I pressed record because I made that mistake once and never again. Then I'm going to introduce you to the host, because it's not just me online today. I have my esteemed colleague with me to help out. We'll take a look at the Q&A instructions. Then I'm going to delve into the content of today's webinar. What is smart scheduling? Why is it being created? The business insights in particular, and who's it for? And to give you an idea of all of those questions, I've got 3 scenarios prepared that we'll run through. So there's going to be some video content as well. It's not just me nattering on. And then I'll dive into the platform as well in between the different scenarios so that I can show you some extra bonus tips, okay? My bonus bites. And then at the very end, if we do have time, we'll cover off any live questions that come in as well. So who do we have on today? Well, we have the wonderful Honor Anstis, who is a EMEA Partner Manager. Now, Honor, who celebrates her 2 years with Deputy today, which is great. She works tirelessly to onboard, to train, to manage our many partners throughout Europe and beyond. And she has very kindly agreed to help me with the Q&A today. So throughout the webinar, do type in your questions, and both Honor and I will endeavour to furiously type away with our answers. And as always, any that we can't answer today, we will add to the follow-up information. Okay. And then you've got me. So it's Gary Harper here. I work in customer success, and it is my unwavering objective to help as many customers as I can to accelerate to the value of Deputy, to facilitate your understanding of the platform so you can get the most out of it. Now, to ask your questions, you should be able to see the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. As I say, any questions where it requires loads of context or something that we just can't address today, we will come back to you and we'll provide an FAQ afterwards as well. So yeah, we'll send that out with the recording. So don't worry if we can't answer it here and now. Classic me. Okay, so it's time to go to the first video. All right. Now, I'm going to talk over this, okay, because I want this to play whilst I describe what's going on. Now, what is smart scheduling and business insights? So in Deputy, you'll likely be aware of the stats panel on the schedule page, okay? So it's a drop-down text and graphic display, and it shows you daily totals. It shows you, well, depending on your view, it will show you weekly, fortnightly, 4-weekly, or monthly totals for wages, hours and sales, as well as a simple view showing required and/or scheduled staff numbers. So the stats panel has been redesigned to make tracking these totals clearer and to help you keep track of wage and hour goals or limits. So Business Insights, which is this new modal, this is a whole new extra section within Deputy on the web where you can set up, you can manage your own unique budgets, sales forecasts, and you can even create your own bespoke demand drivers. Now, of course, I do appreciate that a setup of a lot of this may seem daunting, or knowing where to start, what it is, or what's possible, what's not possible, what's even worth, spending a lot of time setting up, because the last thing we want you to do is to spend a load of time on a complex setup that doesn't give you the equivalent value or the outcome you were hoping for. Every business of course is different, and there's a number of different ways that you can use these tools, okay? So what I'm going to do today is use just an example business of a hotel with a restaurant and a bar that also host events, and how the 3 different parts of the business can operate independently to make use of these tools in slightly different ways. Now, don't worry, I'm going to stop this here. Now, don't worry if you are not in hospitality, and don't quit the meeting and don't go, right, see ya, and press leave on the meeting if you're not in hospitality. because these are just some example ideas. So this is really just designed to give you an overview of what's possible and to spark some ideas as to how similar setups or concepts could work in your business, regardless of the industry. Right, so let's have a look at the platform here. Now, my business is split into 3 locations. So the imaginatively titled Harper's Hotel is in 3 locations. I've got Vinny's Bar and Restaurant, I've got the reception and the operations team, and I've got the events team as well. Now, each of these departments has slightly different processes and drivers when creating schedules. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at scenario number 1, which is going to be the bar and restaurant. At the beginning of the month, the head of finance gives the department's location manager a sales forecast and percentage goal of labour costs against this predicted income. Here in Excel, we have 2 sets of fortnightly sales forecasts with daily totals that you can now simply copy and paste into the relevant sales section in Deputy. Now back on the schedule page, as I hover over each day, you can see the daily forecasted figure. The location manager has also been given a goal of 23% as a labour versus sales target each month. This will vary somewhat throughout the month, but it's the manager's responsibility to ensure the staff costs are averaging out to the 23% mark or below, whilst maintaining excellent customer service with the right coverage. Taking a look at the previous fortnight, I can see we did a good job, but was slightly above the target level of 23%. So I'm going to copy and paste the shift pattern, as it was pretty close, and make some smarter tweaks to see where I can make some savings without a detriment to overall service and coverage. Taking a look at the first week, I can see that the weather is not looking so good on Monday, so it doesn't make sense to have the outside marquee bar open, so I'm going to remove this shift. You can make further adjustments such as swaps to save cost. I can also remove a few closing shifts here, as I don't need 3 people to close down on certain days. Back in the Business Insights section, after the fact we can manually update the actuals within the sales data input section, or if you're using a point of sale or other integration, the actuals can be auto-populated throughout the day, updating in real time. The summary page has the manager's forecast to compare against these actuals. Plus, once timesheets are approved, the actual labour percentage in comparison to what was scheduled can also be seen here. For a more detailed and malleable report, head to the Reports section. We have the Schedule versus Timesheet versus Sales report, which can be filtered by date, department, and even employee. So you can really delve into any discrepancies here. And this example shows where just a team of 10 staff members, all clocking in 5 minutes before their scheduled start time and 5 minutes after the scheduled end time, adds an extra £20 a week to the wage costs, which, if that happens every week, that's more than £1,000 a year, and that's just 5 minutes, and that's just 10 staff. So having this detailed insight into your staff costs will really pay huge dividends over time. There are a few different ways to get your sales data into the system. The point of sale direct integrations that Deputy work with, Dropbox, our extensive open API, And of course you can copy and paste, as I did, from your own spreadsheet. And I will post links to all of these help guides in the webinar follow-up. All right, so that's the bar in the restaurant. Now I've got 3 extra bonus tips to give you here that I'm going to do live in the platform now. And the first one is filtering by area. I don't know that it's that known that you can do this. So for example, say you have different areas within multiple locations that maybe share staff members. So they share not only across location, but between particular areas as well. And you want to be able to see those on the schedule page together. You can actually filter by by words in the names of the areas. So the thing to do is initially, first point is to click on all locations up here. Now my example is that I have 2 kitchens. It's the same staff, but they work in the kitchen for one location and the other. So I want to see just the kitchen areas for both locations. So once you're on all locations view, when you click on the drop down, you can see this little search box here. And if you just start to type the name that you need to filter by, you can see both of the areas show here. And then I'm going to click filter all areas with kitchen. And there we go. You can now see that we have just the kitchens for the different locations that I can, create different schedules and shifts for. And the stats panel, when I drop this down now, will just reflect the details for what's on show here for my 2 kitchens in separate locations. I think that's pretty handy. My tip number 2 is to tag a job role or a skill or any attribute or characteristic in the training section so that you can filter them on the schedule page. So for example, if I just go to, let's say, which one is it I want now? This one. If you've got tons and tons of staff here and you just quickly want to see everyone who has got a specific skill set or role or some attribute that you've created in the training tag, you can just type it here. So if I type kitchen, I will only be shown people who have got that in their training. So when you click a person, it drops down here. You can see their training tags. And you can see here both Paul and Claire have kitchen. And I can just quickly see them amongst all the noise, if you've got like these hundreds and hundreds of shifts on show. So really handy. And my third bonus tip for this section is timesheet automation. Now, right at the end of that video, I was talking about the amazing savings you can make if you're not overpaying people by just like a few minutes either side of their shift start and end time, which it may not be that tangible on a day-by-day basis, but you add those figures up over a year, it can be absolutely huge. So if you are paying people just to their start and end times and you don't really want it to leak over either way, make sure that you enable some automation on your timesheet settings. So in order to do that, we go to the locations tab, choose the relevant location, edit settings, and it's the timesheets tab. As you scroll down, you'll start to see some rounding options here. The simplest one to do is to enable rounding. Round if it's earlier than the start time, it'll come to the start time regardless. And if it's later than the end time, it'll come to the end time regardless. And then the other way round, if it's you have this enabled and people clock in late, then you can determine whether you have any rounding to bring it back to the start time or not. That's up to you in here. But if you have these enabled, this could, literally save you thousands of pounds a year. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. But of course, it depends how your business works. Right, it's time now to go over to scenario number 2. Number 2, here we go. The accommodation side of the business uses different metrics to establish correct daily shift coverage, arrivals and departures. In the Business Insights section, the location manager of the reception and operations department has the number of guests checking in and checking out each day fed into Deputy directly via the Open API to give them up-to-date numbers. But of course, these can be manually added and amended easily. They're measured here in total hours of coverage required throughout the location's operating hours. These numbers will determine suggested staffing levels based on what's called the labour model. In this example, the labour model is configured to add 1 staff member to reception for every 10 extra arrivals in an hour, so that the suggested required staff is met, ensuring we always have good base coverage, especially at the busiest times. Inside this modal, we can amend minimums and maximums, so we're not left short or overexposed. Having run the labour model for next week, back on the schedule page we can see, once we add the arrivals metric to the graphic display, that the numbers typically reflect the peak arrival times around early afternoon and again in the evening. Having determined the staffing levels from the labour model, enabling the required staff graphic shows the suggested shift hours to ensure we're covering the demand sufficiently. We can take this one step further now by asking Deputy to create the shifts required, using some basic criteria. Before this, I want to make sure I have the minimum coverage in the office and cleaning departments. So I'm going to add that from a pre-saved template first. With these shifts in place, I'll now ask the auto builder to create the shift structure that will act as a rough guide to ensure correct coverage based on the required staff deemed from running the labour model for this time period. Once completed, we can see the required staff and number of created shifts pretty evenly matched. The last step is to fill these shifts. The level of intelligence takes another notch up now. Deputy will systematically check that before shifts are filled, that the employees meet requirements and don't break preset rules. Availability, maximum working time, skill set, and other criteria you can choose, such as evenly spreading hours and preferring previous patterns. All these can be calculated in the background during this process. For the best outcome, set the maximum time and go and make a coffee. The app on your smartphone or even your Apple Watch will ping you when it's done, in just a few minutes. Looking at the stats, I can see I'm going to exceed my wage and hours targets. That's okay. Looking at the graph, I can see my coverage in reception can be reduced where there are several overlapping shifts, so I can easily reduce a few hours here, being mindful to ensure I don't go below that minimum required staff. You'll notice in the labour model configuration that you can select to keep required shifts within the operating hours or not. If you do, you can also add a buffer either side. The operating hours are determined in the relevant location settings. Here you can decide the first and last, which on the day view are visibly marked to help guide you. In the Business Insights section,
You can also add wage and/or hours budgets per location as a weekly target. Simply click on the box to add or edit the amount.
All right, there we go, scenario 2. I'll just line up number 3, but we'll hop over back to my account because I have 2 bonus tips for you this time round. Now, when in that video example there, we were dealing with the operation side of thing, where there's tons and tons of shifts all in one view. Here's a simple tip. Just use, if you're using Google Chrome, I highly recommend when it comes to big busy schedule patterns like this, to use the 3 dots here and zoom out. I think realistically you can go out all the way to something like 67%, and then if you're now I'm long-sighted, so it's fine for me, but if you're worried about then being able to read anything, you can actually then just zoom in like this. So I'm just zooming. I'm using a trackpad here, but I'm pretty sure clicking on a mouse wheel will do the same thing. And the good thing is, wherever your pointer is over the screen, that's what it'll zoom into. So that can be really handy if you need the extra real estate. My other tip, my second one, is amongst all this noise, where are Raquel's shifts, for example? I quickly need to see Raquel's shift. Well, just again, use the filter box here and just start to type her name. And then you can see it nicely grays out all the noise other than the ones that we want to see. Okay. The other way to do this is if the person is in the list view here, and you say, okay, let's find someone with some hours. I want to see Chris's shifts. Click on Chris. They highlight in blue. Perfect. A couple of tips there for you. Right. Let's go with video and scenario number 3, the last one. We're absolutely flying through this. Do get your questions in the Q&A box. We'll get to them very shortly once I start the next one. All right, so we're on to the events team now.
The final example is for the events location. The location manager and deputy is in charge of coordinating the staffing for particular bookings and ensuring the staff costs and minimum coverage are in line with the size of booking and spend from the client. Here we're going to focus predominantly on shift templates. Looking at next week, the team has bookings from Thursday to Sunday. The events manager has entered a detail of the booking on each day. This is really helpful to know in order to choose the relevant shift template. On Thursday, we have a small evening event with 18 guests. I'll switch to day view so I can select a day-based template. Each of my preset shift templates has a name and description, so I can very quickly build out my core team. In the shift notes is a pre-prepared description of the event size, so the staff member has advance notice of what's happening. Once loaded, I have more options as to how to fill these. I could use the autofill again, where deputy makes those smart choices to ensure the right people are selected. Secondly, I could manually drag and drop staff members onto the shifts. Another option would be to have a pre-filled template. So let's say this was my preferred team. I could save this as a template too. So I have the choice to start from scratch, pre-filled, or a mixture of the two even. And there's another option as well. I can let the staff opt in to claim a shift. and then choose from the staff that have requested to work. You can still make it first come, first serve for any of the shifts where necessary. Here you can see we have a sales figure of £2,500. This is the predicted income from the event. This is the manager's forecast of food and drink sales and booking fee for the event, and so now we can fine-tune the shifts to meet a labour percentage goal. The goal is 25%, so we do have some freedom here to ensure excellent service by adding another waiting team shift and making it an open shift for a keen employee. Back on the week view, you can see I have filled out the other days and their applicable shift templates. If a last-minute booking comes in, we can still overlay one template with another. First of all, I'll update the sales forecast. At the moment, there is a Friday day event, but we've just had a last-minute Friday night party booking. Click the drop-down and load template, where I'll drop in the evening shift options. Which I can publish out right there and then.
All right, there we go. That's all my video bits. So 3 different examples there of how, I'll go back a couple of slides, of how you can start to incorporate just some ideas of these different business sites, business insights into your businesses. Now we've had a fair few questions come in there, not all I could get to. Sorry if you could hear my my keyboard typing throughout there. I should have muted myself. Honor, do we have any questions through that I could perhaps answer now?
Hi Gary, yes, we've got a couple. Let me read them out. First one is, will the Business Insights panel be updated again soon?
Yes, very good question. Yes, of course. Every aspect of Deputy is constantly being improved, updated, worked on. The Business Insights panel, I must say, is in its first iteration, so it's going to improve. What I would say is, if you click on the little drop down here, you can see we have a give feedback button. So if you click here, we invite you to give us your feedback and your suggestions, your ideas about how it could be improved, how you use it now, what is missing, what is there too much of, too little of. The Deputy platform and aspects of it like this are built on our great customers' feedback, suggestions and ideas, and the things that you come up with, the things that you need, absolutely have a direct impact on the future of how we build the platform. So please, I do encourage you to pop all your ideas in here. We read them all, and it really does have an impact.
Great, let me give you another one. Can you remind me, what does autofill check for before filling the shift?
Yes, very good question. So the autofill takes 6 criteria into account every single time that you go to fill the shifts. And actually the same can be said for dragging and dropping any person over onto a shift, be it blank or pre-filled. So the 6 items that the autofill takes into account is the person on annual leave? Has the person marked themselves, or have they been marked as unavailable? The third is, are they correctly trained? And even if they are correctly trained, so they have a training tag that matches the area, is that training tag valid? Because you can put start and end dates on training tags as well in the person's profile. So even if I have the same tag, if it's gone beyond the expiry date, so for example, a first aid certificate lasts a year, I think. So if it's gone beyond that, a warning will come up and it won't, or autofill will not try and put that person in. The fourth is, will it exceed someone's stress profile? So if you have someone who has a maximum amount of hours that they can work in a day, a shift, a week, if by autofilling that person it breaches the stress profile, then it won't put them in. So that's 4. The 5th is if someone is working in another department. So if it's an overlap, not just in the same location, but across multiple locations. And the last one is, are they a preferred employee? So you can actually tag, per area, select employees that you would rather be scheduled there. And that's it. So that's those 6. So are they on leave? Have they marked themselves as unavailable, or they've been marked unavailable correctly and in date trained? They're not going to go over their stress profile. They're not double booked. They're working somewhere else, and they are a preferred employee. Okay. The last thing. Thank you so much for your questions, by the way, guys. There's a couple last minute coming in now. Let me just take a quick check. So, someone asked, where does the labour percentage of 23 to 25%? That's I just made that up. That's just a fake goal, a fake target. I suppose, it's roughly realistic for a hospitality business. That's something that, like, my imaginary financial advisor had come up with as a target for the location managers to reach. Let's see what else we have in the question box. Oh, there's so many here that I'm not going to get through because we only have 10 minutes left, and there is something really important I want to ask you guys. Yes, Thomas, absolutely. I'll give you a call. Ian's asking about pay rates. Are you able to set the hourly rate to change within an area, for example, if the team work past midnight? Yes, in the core platform of Deputy Premium, there is no way to say, beyond a certain time, this person's pay rate must automatically update. It can be built in for you. That is what's called a custom term rate. The setup team, depending on the complexity of it, is the honest answer, and the time taken to create that on the back end determines whether it can be done. But if it is a straightforward pay rate, for example, everyone has this, where if they work in a certain area, it goes beyond a certain time, they must get this rate. Yes, it can be done. I would say reach out to the support team for more details. Okay, now there's a few other more detailed questions that I probably need to deal on a one-to-one basis, because they're regarding very specific setups and requirements. So I'll come back to you individually on those. But the last thing I'd like to ask of you guys actually is to answer me a question, if you wouldn't mind. Now, poll time. I'm going to launch a poll in a second, and it's multiple choice, so you can answer just one or several. But the question is that I'd like you to consider: what would you find the easiest and most valuable method of learning the Deputy platform? Okay, because as I said at the beginning, my role is about how can I empower you, I suppose, to learn the system as best as possible so that you can then thrive with it. So one, PDF articles that I can download, share and print. Two, dedicated learning platform, so something outside of the Deputy system that you log in and have a great experience where you have step-by-step video training guides and certificates and badges. Three, an interactive live group video calls with peers. So this could be maybe a Zoom meeting like we're doing now, but where with a select few Deputy pros who want to get together from different industry or different peer groups in the same industry and chat amongst yourselves to get the most out of the platform and answer each other's questions and share experiences. And four, actual in-product interactive guides. So something when you're in the Deputy platform for the first time, or maybe you're a new manager in the first sort of couple of weeks, with interactive ways of learning the platform whilst you're in it. So I'm going to launch that now, and we would absolutely love to get your feedback. So please do answer away. I'll just give you a minute or so there to vote. And this is very fun for me to watch this because I can see the bars zooming up and down. It's like watching a horse race here, like a full horse race. Oh, I tell you what, the dedicated learning platform's nudging ahead. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm just going to give you another, say, 30 seconds to a minute there. So please do vote with, you can just do your favorite one, or if you'd like the idea of a couple of these, then you can choose more than one. So there's still about 20 people not voted, or less than that now, about 15 of you not voted. So I'll just give you a few more seconds. We've got 5 minutes left, so it's all good. Okay, I think everyone who's going to vote has. Coming out on top is the dedicated learning platform with step-by-step video training guides. I'm very pleased to see that. As a very close second, and this is an interesting one actually, to in-product interactive guides, and just nudged ahead is PDF articles I can download, share and print. And that's really interesting because obviously, people still like the tangible thing that they can print out and have handy and share around. So it's really interesting, really good to know. So thank you ever so much, everyone. That's the end of the webinar. Thank you so much. It's actually hugely appreciated for how many of you have shown up today, and thank you so much for all of your questions. Honor and I have tried to get back to as many of you as possible. There's a few I know that haven't had your questions answered, and I will get back to you after this. Okay, so thanks again, guys. It's really awesome to see you. I shall give you your morning back. Look, a free 4 minutes just for you, from me to you. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of the week. And I'll speak to you very soon. Take care.